Ring ring, it's time for another episode of Crossplay Conversations, the show where we dive deep on the world of video games while keeping it light. I'm your host today, Jacob McCourt, and I have two co-hosts with me. The first one, the host with the most, it's Luke Lewis.
Hello! Last
Hi.
episode of the year. Let's do
Woo,
it.
let's go! And my second friend, the sneaker savant, Joseph Hooper. Hello. I'm not going to make you show a shoe because you have a dog.
Here's my
It's
shoe.
a cute dog for audio listeners.
Oh.
There she goes.
I'm
off
here.
on an adventure.
Another reason to check out the video version so you can see Joseph's very cute dog.
There you go.
Today we're doing a bunch of things because it is our last recording of the year. We're going to walk through what games we're going to play before GOTY in our icebreaker question. We're going to cover a short recap of the 2023 edition of the Game Awards, and then we're going to end with a little end-of-year game to get us ready for GOTY. So with that, our icebreaker question for this week is, what games are you planning to play between now and our Game of the Year conversations in January? Luke, you brought this question to us in our Discord because I think that you had said, hey, what games should I put on my Steam Deck to play during the holiday break? So let me get in your brain. What are you planning to play in the next month before we record our GOTY conversations?
For sure. I think, I'm kind of plotting out because we have a limited amount of time. There's a bit of time, not a lot of time. There's enough time to squeeze in like a couple small indies or maybe like one larger game, and so that's the game I've been playing. I've been kind of dabbling in a lot of stuff this week just to see kind of what sticks and what I would like to keep playing. On my radar, I want to dabble in Baldur's Gate. I have not touched Baldur's Gate all year. Joseph, I know you've been playing it. It obviously won Game of the Year at the GOTYs. Spoilers for our future discussion there, but it's one that I feel like I need to at least touch to kind of just like hold have a right to have a Game of the Year conversation. I don't know if it's necessarily my bag, but I do like a good narrative experience, so interested to check that out. On the indie side, I just jumped into Sea of Stars, and I'm really loving that. So I'm planning to keep playing that. It feels like a good portable game. Play while traveling to my folks for the holidays. And then I've also been hearing a lot of talk about Chants of Sonar. I don't know if you guys have heard of this one. It's like cool indie puzzle game, kind of cel-shaded art style, but it's all about like linguistics puzzles based on the Tower of Babel story, and you're like learning languages and like interpreting information. It kind of gives me Tunic vibes, Joseph, as far as like how information is unfolded to you throughout the game. So I've heard really good things from folks, so that one's on my radar to maybe check out for indies, because I feel like I've been pretty good about either finishing or playing a significant amount of everything else that I think is of interest to this group here on the pod.
Do you guys track the amount of games that you play in a year? I don't know if I know the answer to this question, because I keep meticulous note.
I keep meticulous notes of what I beat.
Yeah,
and then I like, if there's something I want to go back to. I haven't kept a list of like everything I've tried, because that's kind of a lot. But
I don't actively track it, but like I'll go in and update my GG list every now and again.
Yeah, what's nice is with GG is I usually keep like my playing, and for those who don't know, it's like I think it's gg.app or ggapp.io is the site. I keep track of everything I beat, and then everything that's abandoned goes in that list. So at least I can cobble together a list if I had to. But I've beat 41 games this year, which I feel like is
that's so many games.
I feel like that's enough.
That's a lot of games.
That is a ton of games.
Yeah. Joseph, your turn.
I'm playing Baldur's Gate right now. It's a good game. It's from what I hear, it's a long game though. So I will probably be playing this as my main game up through our Game Awards conversation. I don't have any plans to pick up any other major games. I might go back to some games. I might finish off Tears of the Kingdom because I never finished that. And I guess it is possible I pick up Chants of Sonar as like the final game to fit into my end of the year scope, because puzzle games are 100% my thing. So
I think it's relatively short too, so that's a plus right now.
Yeah. So I'll get around to it. If I get around to it before the conversation, we'll see. But I'll definitely try.
For sure.
I feel like I play like tons and tons of games during the break. Like maybe I play 10 hours of games a week, and then like during the break I'll play like 30 hours of games during the week off because I have the entire week off. So I'm trying to finish up Spider-Man 2 at the moment, which
Nice.
I think you guys know. You're enjoying me just discover the things in that game as time goes. But if I get time, I think RE4 remake is going to be the next thing that I try and hit. And then if there's any time left, either Alan Wake 2 or Tchia will probably be the stuff that I focus on. I'm going to try Jusant one more time, but it is like absolutely not vibing with me, so that one might go to the abandoned pile. But that's what I'm planning. What's nice is I don't have to travel for the holidays anymore, so I can just sit in my box and family will come to me this year.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. All right, well, that's what we've got on the docket for the rest of the year. The Game Awards just happened as of recording a few days before we're recording this. It was a 2-hour and 52-minute show plus pre-show. What I'd love to know is, first off, high level, how did you feel about this year's show? Let's start this time with Joseph.
Sure. I thought from a presentation standpoint or like from a game reveal announcement standpoint, it's probably one of the better years that we've had in some time. I think it is still the same formula that it always runs, where it's like, okay, we have some great announcements in the beginning. There's a bit of a lull in an hour stretch, and then we end with some good announcements as well. But overall, I think I had a lot of nice surprises, some genuine surprises that didn't link for me, which is really cool. From an awards standpoint, I think it continuously gets worse as just like an awards show. Like it's just very, very weird, odd choices. Like not even talking about like letting people speak or whatever, but like best debut indie can go on stage, but best independent game is like announced on the side. Super weird choices. So I don't like that, but I understand how it is. So overall, I enjoyed it. The lull was not great, but it was better than previous years for sure.
Luke?
I might be the odd man out on this one, but I just was really disappointed in this year, to be honest. I thought the caliber of announcements, I would agree with Joseph, like there were some really exciting announcements and games that I'm definitely excited to keep an eye out for. But from an award show standpoint, it just felt really disrespectful to all the devs that traveled to be there. And I know running a show and planning an event of that scale is logistically difficult, but like people were getting played off after like 20 seconds. It was insane, to the point where like Sam Lake has been working on Alan Wake 2 for 13 years and he gets played off, and it's just like, I don't know, it just felt really distasteful and it kept happening, so it really left a bad taste in my mouth. Not to mention, I know there's a lot of outcry about Jeff and company not acknowledging any of the layoffs and horrible things that have happened in the industry. I think we all kind of expected that, but it's still disappointing that nothing on that front happened to kind of acknowledge folks. Yeah, so I just think, I don't know, from like a symbolic industry perspective of like what this event is like at its base level set to do of celebrating video games, I don't think it did a great job. It was entertaining to watch the reveals, but when you look at the breakdown of like how much time was spent on announcements versus how much time was spent giving acceptance speeches and awards, and to Joseph's point, it's really weird that like certain awards weren't presented at all or were in rapid fire. Like the fact that like best RPG, which is like a pretty major category, was just like steamrolled straight through, or best music. Like in the past, we've received like, I remember like multiple music performances throughout the night. And this year we kind of didn't get that. We got the Alan Wake one, which was incredible. I'm sure we'll talk about that. But like, it just felt odd. It felt more commercial than past years. It felt like a step back, not a step forward to me. What did you think, Jacob? I'm curious.
Yeah, I as far as the pacing of the show, I thought the first I'm a huge fan of the pre-show, and I think Sydney
Yeah.
Goodman, like
Pre-show was
whoever
great,
wrote her
yeah.
script,
Pre-show was great. Yeah.
I feel bad because some of the jokes she had to deliver, like clearly I was like, somebody wrote this and it almost felt mean that some of the jokes were like so sort of deadpan or lame. I love Sydney Goodman. I just felt
She's
like it was
great,
whoever
yeah.
wrote maybe didn't like talk to her beforehand and she had to deliver some like
Sure.
interesting jokes. A lot of banger announcements always in the pre-show for folks like us because they're typically like smaller indie. I mean, we get Brothers remake in the pre-show. Last year we got Dead
Yeah.
Cells Return to Castlevania in the pre-show.
It's not the pre-show, or at least for
Yeah.
like industry folks, I don't feel like it is. It's a weird branding in that sense that like the show's not starting, but like it really is.
Yeah.
Like Daniel Mullen's new project, like
Yeah.
that's big.
But the pacing of the show, I felt like the first hour was like banging, and then the show sort of dragged a little bit. We've said this before that Jeff has multiple masters that he has to appease here, and he typically never satisfies any of them, and it's typically folks like us or journalists or members of the game dev community that are the ones that are usually burned. But I don't know what the solution is. Is the solution really that we're going to do an Oscars pre-show style thing where we give away a bunch of awards, maybe even the day before, and it's streamed and every single person gets the chance to like deliver a speech? Because I feel like that's where we're moving to, that we need to put half of the awards outside the show, somewhere where like the viewership will be 1/100th of what the main show is, but then you can really give those devs moments to talk and then even pull clips in from that show into the main show. He's got a tough challenge, right? Because the show has to make money. The show really isn't a Game Awards. It's like somebody said it was Winter E3, and I think that's what it is plus awards. I agree with you, Luke, that like maybe the devs needed 30 more seconds to, do their thing.
Yeah, just like let them finish talking, finish the statement.
Yeah.
Like Christopher Judge talked for 8 minutes last year, and like I think there's a middle ground of like we don't need to be so ridiculous with cutting folks off. And to your thing you mentioned about a winter E3, I've seen a lot of folks calling for it to just be two separate events where there's either like on the same night we get like award show, power hour, and then we get Winter Games Fest presentation, and that feels like more in line with what they're doing. And then in theory Jeff can use the funding and sponsorship from a Winter Games Fest to cover the award show portion. I don't know, that's just food for thought.
Yeah.
So I mean, from my perspective, I 100% agree with Jacob. The dogs are going crazy over there, but I think Chris might end up cutting it out. The dogs
They're passionate about this topic.
I know, they're like, we need to. Wait, hold on, let me see what's going on.
I thought you said Chris for a second, so I'm like, wait, is Chris Judge the one who's gonna like grab the dogs and be like, stop?
Inside Baseball, Crisp, the audio deleting.
That's like your audio filter, right? Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, I think they're good. Yeah, I think I agree with Jacob 100%. I think that at the end of the day, it's like, I think it's going to be very hard to put the show on. And like the reason that the show is 3 hours and has like an hour lull, and hold on, let me get my three-legged dog here.
You're all good. I think to jump on what Joseph is probably going to say, just the idea that like there's boxes that have to be checked, and that's why the event is as long as it is,
and checks that need to be boxed.
Right.
Yeah. So like I know people are like, oh, let's make it 2 days, but it's like, how are you gonna like who? That's another theater that you have to reserve,
right.
And I think reserving it for the first day is probably already exorbitant. Like I don't know if Jeff makes a profit on this at all, like, or how much of a profit he makes. But yeah, I think at the bare minimum, he can let people talk a little bit longer. I think that's not going to kill anybody. And I think this was the first year where people were cut off like this, and it was like pretty egregious. But yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, these awards is kind of like a weird situation, right? Because like people have a lot of requirements for the show, and yes, it is supposed to honor the game developers and everything, but at the end of the day, it is just one guy who is allowing game journalists to vote for their favorite games and give awards out. Like it is not like a sanctioned event by the guild of, gamer developers or anything like that. So like it's like this weird thing where people demand that the Game Awards show some level of respect and stuff for the developers, but at the same time, there are shows for that, and nobody watches them. Like, nobody watches DICE, nobody watches the joystick awards or anything like that. I don't even know if they stream the joystick awards.
The
Quite
golden
honestly,
joysticks are streamed, but
I think they
viewership
do,
is
but
small.
since they're in the UK, it's like a weird timing
like,
for
so
us in the US.
It's this weird thing where the reason that people watch these things, or the reason that people complain about it, where they're like, oh, don't show this trailer, or don't let Kojima, speak for this long. But at the end of the day, that's why the Game Awards has higher viewership than every other show. So it's just such a weird position to be in, where Jeff is now somehow the arbiter of games awards, and when he's really just kind of like a rich guy that hands out his own little things, like he's a podcaster that can afford really nice awards, for example. So it's kind of like this weird thing that I don't think will ever be resolved, because Jeff has to has to fund this thing from his own bag, right? Or support it with advertisers who demand that certain things be in the show. So we're going to have this conversation every year.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Jeff can do things to ease the pain on himself by just doing common sense things, like not cutting people off within 30 seconds.
Yeah. And I do want to call out, like, sorry, this is the business boy minute. I noticed that when I say the word endemic, there are tons of endemic sponsorships. Like, we saw Discord and we saw Google and etc. But not a lot of non-endemic sponsoring the show, like essentially non-game companies, like your food delivery companies or others, like, weren't really getting involved this year. So I wonder if his budget was lower this year. It didn't feel like it, but that's one thing I definitely noticed. And to your point, Joseph, like, he's got multiple masters, and I think folks like us will likely always have criticisms of the show. Some of them rightful, but I feel like no one else. If Jeff wasn't doing this, we'd have the Spike Video Game Awards again, right? So beggars can't be choosers, I guess.
Sure. Yeah.
I think there's sorry.
One more thing, Luke, and then we'll jump to announcements here.
You're good. I think I was just going to say I agree that there's forward progress to be made within the realm of possibility.
Yeah,
I think that's it.
Quick recap on. Go ahead.
Before we go, just a quick question. Do you? Who funds the Oscars? Do we know? Like, is it the Screen Actors Guild of America or something like that?
It's the Academy of Motion Pictures.
Yeah, that's like a whole org.
Gotcha. Okay.
And there's advertising. But I think the advertising then comes from whatever network is on, and they will obviously not get all of the advertising during the commercials, but they'll, in my brain, because it's a special event and because it's like on different channels depending on the year, part of the commercial break revenue would go to the show. Plus, they have a museum that helps fund the actual thing. So, like, it's a little different than Jeff, which I think about the Oscars have been around for almost 100 years, right? So there might be a world where the TGAs then, now he's got the 3 shows plus the music shows that he does at the Hollywood Bowl if he continues to do those. But maybe there's other revenue sources going forward, and he doesn't have to rely as much on, like, advertisers in
has a little bit
30
more
years
freedom
from now, but who knows?
Gotcha. Okay.
On the awards, there were only 3 games that won multiples. Baldur's Gate 3 ended up walking away with 6 game awards: Game of the Year, Best RPG, Best Multiplayer, Player's Voice, Best Performance, Community Support. Alan Wake 2 walked away with 3: Art Direction, Game Direction, and Best Narrative. And Forza Motorsport walked away with 2: Best Sports Racing and Accessibility. Announcements. I'd love for y'all to, let's just rapid fire style go through some of our favorite announcements of the show. I will start and say that I popped so hard for the Dave the Diver / Dredge DLC. I lost my mind, because those are 2 of my favorite games of the year, and to have Dredge DLC in Dave the Diver, just like, sign me up. Let's go.
Yeah, I think it's really cool.
Awesome.
Nice to see indies like playing well together and like doing fun shit. I think that's really fun. Like Among Us did a thing recently where it's like they did a bunch of collab stuff with a bunch of different indie brand studios. So it's cool. Yeah. but indies in quotes, but
Yeah,
smaller
indies in quotes.
games working together, you know.
Luke, where did you pop most in the show?
I think Marvel's Blade probably was the biggest pleasant
Yeah.
surprise for me. Like, I'm a huge comic book fan. I've kind of fallen off of the MCU in the most recent entries. Just it hasn't surprised me in the same way it did leading up to Endgame, but I love a good comic book game. Like, we've been playing Spider-Man this year, Batman Arkham games, etc. Like, they're some of my favorite games of all time, and I absolutely adore the Dishonored series.
Mhm.
So seeing Arcane Leon working on a game that they wanted to make, like, they pitched this game to Marvel Games and we were like, we have a passion for this. Blade, play it your way. I'm interested to see what they do with third person. Like, there's so many things with this game, and the cinematic trailer I thought looked absolutely sweet. So that was a really cool surprise that I can't wait to see what happens with that one.
I thought it was Redfall for a second.
Yeah, the vampire vibe, I was like, that's
I'm like,
weird.
oh, Redfall DLC?
There's
It
no
is
way.
weird that they're doing two kind of back-to-back vampire games, and one's probably going to be absolutely fire, and that's Blade. But
and correct me if I'm wrong, Redfall was Arcane Austin.
correct.
And then this is Arcane Leon, who did...
Yeah, so Redfall was the
Deathloop.
studio behind Prey, for
Mhm.
folks who played, and then, yeah, this would be the Deathloop team, which I fell off of Deathloop, not because of quality, but just didn't stick with me the same way Dishonored did, but I do think that's a really talented team over there, so I'm excited to see what they do. It'll be cool to see kind of like an artsier, like, highbrow Marvel game, but maybe it's not, but like at least have some of those arcane elements in there.
Yeah, that was also probably my biggest one as well. Like I'm like, in terms of Arcane, like, I've played every game excluding Redfall since like Dishonored 1. So I played all of Dishonored, Death of an Outsider, Prey, Deathloop, and I enjoyed all of those. So super pumped for Xbox to be getting their first Marvel property.
Yeah, that's
and
a big part of it too. It's cool.
Curious how far they can take it. I don't think it'll get Spider-Man levels of hype, just because one, the gameplay genre is, immersive sim is not as, wide encompassing as just random action open world. But two, like, the IP, I think a lot of people know of Blade, but people don't have that connection to him because he doesn't really have those modern movies to, especially all those reboots, to get the different generations excited about it. But I am hyped nonetheless. I don't know Arcane as like the story guys, so I don't know if the story will be, mind blowing or anything like that. But from a gameplay perspective, man, I cannot wait for them to get their second shot at vampires, just a few years after the calamity known as Redfall.
I thought of both of you at different times of the show when a game announcement came up. For you, Joseph, when Rise of the Golden Idol came out, when the sequel is coming, I knew you'd be excited. And then Luke, when Lost Records Bloom and Rage was announced.
Yeah,
so
that looks like my shit for sure.
Did those two games like really pop you both? Joseph, did Rise of the Golden Idol really pop you?
I mean, come on. Yeah, any more Golden Idol content, I'm all there for it. I'll eat it up. So I cannot wait. And it's on Netflix too. That's pretty cool. That's a cool little Netflix.
Cool for exposure, and I think the murder mystery whodunit is hot right now, off of Knives Out and things like that. So
yeah,
I think it's cool.
Netflix making moves. Netflix making moves. So yeah, totally hyped for that one.
And Lost Records, I thought it was a Life is Strange game, but it is a new IP, I guess.
Yeah, it looked like True Colors when it first started. I was like, oh, is this a True Colors sequel? Which I absolutely adored, but cool vibes. I liked the art style. I liked the music. I think that studio is very capable of telling compelling narrative. So yeah, super excited for that one. The other one I think I popped the most for was in the pre-show, Windblown.
Yeah,
the new motion twin game. I fucking love Dead Cells, so I'm super excited to see this. Like, it looks like co-op, kind of like isometric Hades-esque roguelike. It looks really cool.
Yeah, just the indie announcements in the pre-show, man. Brothers, the Pony Island 2.
Ooh, yeah. This was a banging pre-show for sure.
Yeah.
Is there a Pony Island 1, or is this a Goat Simulator 2 to 3 situation? Okay, there is.
There is a Pony Island 1. Yeah.
Because I saw that name and I was like, that sounds like a ridiculous game, but it looks weird and cool, and yeah, I'm sold.
That game is really inexpensive, and if you
Okay.
don't have it, our friends at 61 Indie just did a playthrough on their YouTube channel.
Oh, fun.
So you can check that out if you just want to get a flavor for the first game.
Okay.
That'd be cool.
Okay. Two really other quick announcements.
Yeah.
One, I have been a staunch Hellblade
Denier?
not denier, but like I'm trying to bring everybody's
Skeptic?
hype down because I don't skeptic, that's a good word. I don't feel like it is going to hit the AAA, or I didn't feel like it was going to hit the AAA Last of Us level that people are kind of comparing it to. But after seeing this trailer, I think that this game is going to be something really special. Like just from the graphical standpoint, where I was seeing, clips where I was like, this looks like live action. Like some of the stuff that I was seeing, like the way the lighting and the faces were looking, I was like, this is incredible. And overall, like now that they've shown the combat, I don't think it's going to be game changing or anything, but I think that they have smooth the edges from all sides. I think this is just going to be a really, really exciting and new experience that feels super AAA. So shout out to the Hellblade team because I'm very excited to get this game now where I wasn't as excited before. And then quickly, like the Kojima OD announcement, Jordan Peele coming out blew my freaking mind. I was not ready for that music to start playing for Jordan Peele to walk out that door. I'm curious if you guys think that this game will truly be as revolutionary as he says it is, because I think he said that about Death Stranding 2 and or Death Stranding as well. And I'm not sure I don't know if he necessarily accomplished that. Maybe in some ways he did, but I'm curious what you guys think about the upcoming OD project.
I think Kojima makes very interesting games, and I'm always compelled to check them out. I don't necessarily know if we needed as much time spent talking to him on stage as we got. Like, he's a big name, he's very interesting, he's very cool, he's very compelling, but like, when it ultimately boils down to, I'm making a game in a new media, or a new medium that you've never experienced before, it's like, okay, great, I love it. You're making a horror game with Jordan Peele involved. And it was also weird. Did you guys catch when he was like, and he's not even the biggest name, or like something along those lines of like, it's not just him, there's more. I've assembled the Avengers.
There's supposed to be other people.
What does that mean? So it's very interesting. The game looks graphically very impressive, but yeah, I think anytime there was another announcement to the No Man's Sky team working on Light No Fire.
Yeah.
A similar announcement where I'm like, okay, let's like, not, I don't want to be negative and like say we need to temper expectations.
What I was going to say is
like
the hype men need to stop hyping their games. Have they not learned, especially Sean Murray?
Chill a little bit. We can just be like, we're doing something weird, and I think people will dig it. Like, that's enough. That's enough to get me excited. You don't have to say you're making Earth.
I mean, technically, factually correct, but I mean, you think Sean Murray of all people, I don't know the man, but like, given what happened with No Man's Sky, you did it again. And
sorry
maybe
to jump to that one, because I know we were talking about Kojima, but I feel like they kind of intertwine each other in terms of like the internet hype, running away with it. By the time the game, it's like impossible for these games to live up to expectations, when in reality, I kind of have no expectations for either game. Not in a negative way, but just like we'll see.
Yep.
I don't,
Yeah.
Kojima makes very good video games.
Yeah, of course.
Death Stranding is a game that I think I didn't love as much in the moment as looking back on, I really enjoyed. Like, actually, stumbling about like a drunken toddler while carrying packages across mud, like, maybe wasn't the most fun in the moment, but I really look back at that game with a lot of reverence. And I feel like that's Kojima's games, where like, you may struggle a bit in the moment, but like, you look back and you say, that was one of the coolest experiences I had in the medium. But to say like, you're essentially revolutionizing games is a little maybe hyperbolic, but I mean that's what Kojima does. And Sean Murray, I mean, like I said, I don't know the man, but based on what happened with No Man's Sky and having to take years to essentially deliver on most of what was promised, you'd think like you'd sort of temper expectations a little bit. But game looks cool.
Yeah.
I just didn't expect it to be as fantasy as it was.
Yeah. I think I told my partner Claire that feels like a very Claire game
Mhm.
to me. But yeah, he just it felt so hyperbolic to me. Of
Yeah.
just like he's like 12 people are working on it, and it's the first true open world game.
Yeah.
Oh my god, sir, what are you doing?
Not like this.
I mean, I can't think of a game that actually like loops back on itself like the Planet Earth does. But if he can even
Yeah,
deliver
that's-
on that, that would be cool.
Let me tell you about a little game called Outer Wilds, all right? Like, sure,
True,
the planet is
fair,
like,
true.
you know, has like a 10-meter circumference, but hey, it does loop back on itself.
Did anyone play the hit PlayStation 1 game Tale of the Sun? No, I'm just kidding.
And look,
That's
I'm
such an
sure there are
obscure
tons of
poll.
games that do that too, but I just really wanted to walk through some quick hits before we move here.
For sure.
We got DLC for Final Fantasy 16 that got dropped that night, plus the announcement of the next one. We got the Valhalla DLC for God of War, which by the time this comes out, you
That was
should
cool.
be able to play it.
I'm
which
excited
is
to check that out.
cool,
And
a
that's
roguelike,
free as well, which is rad.
And then I want your take as we have the new game from the Goose Game folks, Big Walk, which I don't know much about that game, but sure, I'll play your video game. Want your take on Monster Hunter being the close of the show, because I feel like for me that's not a game that really vibes hard with me. So to have like Light No Fire and Monster Hunter really be like your last two big announcements, like sort of drag the show just a smidge for me. I don't know if y'all felt the same way.
I think it's a big announcement to other people.
Mm-hmm.
For me personally, like I thought World was pretty cool, and that's the
Mhm.
most I've gotten into a Monster Hunter game. I think if they had called this World 2, I think more people would have been like, "Oh, okay, heck
Mhm.
yeah." Which this essentially is Monster Hunter Wilds, I think is the subtitle. But like that's what this game is. It's a sequel. It's a follow up to that scale. It's a sequel to like the most mainstream, commercially successful Monster Hunter. So I think it makes sense. But yeah, it was a bit odd. It kind of maybe a show opener would have made more sense for this one.
Yeah. No,
Boo.
Joseph's
Negative.
booing.
Negative.
I mean, like I really don't really care about Monster Hunter because I need health bars on my enemies. I don't care if you call me a baby for that, but I need to know how much I got left to go when fighting these 30-minute boss fights. But also the graphics just didn't, like, what they showed didn't seem that impressive to me. Like it just seemed like it didn't seem like it was the next step, generational step for Monster Hunter. It just seemed like, oh yeah, this if you told me this ran on PS4, I'd believe you. Like this looks just like okay or whatever. And the sceneries that they showed, like the desert scenes, I was like, all right, sure.
I think folks in the community picked up on a lot of like, oh, there's flying mounts, like that's new and exciting, and there's like they pulled from the Monster Hunter Reddit on the MinMax show, and someone cited that like someone noticed there were 2 weapons on the character in the trailer, which means you can take multiple weapons on a hunt, which like I don't even remember from World, but apparently that's a big deal in Monster Hunter of like variety. And it's like, okay, so there's stuff for people out there, but it's one of those where I'm just like, go have your fun. I'm glad I'm happy you're happy, you know, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, I think Jeff did Q&As running up to the show, and I think that he always said like he felt like it was a show that had a ton of announcements, but
yeah,
his huge show might not be your huge show. And I feel like that's a clear example of that sort of thing. This show is streamed globally now, so I wonder if like crowds in China and Japan like lost their friggin' minds at this, right?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
And
I'm sure there were folks out there that were like, Marvel's Blade, meh.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Same.
I think like even like the Black Myth Wukong, I think that was probably one of my favorite trailers of the show. Like the stuff that they were showing off in that game, which is coming out next year, allegedly, was just dazzling to me in terms of like an adventure fan, as like a, you know, Souls like kind of fan. Like I was like, okay, this
Team
looks
Ninja game?
incredible. No, it's a new studio, I believe.
Team Ninja is what is their game? Their game looked cool though. It's also worth calling out with the Black Myth Wukong. I want to highlight Rebecca Valentine's write up at IGN because she did an article about kind of the studio culture and a lot of toxicity and sexual harassment claims over the years and things. So it sounds like that studio's not a good spot, but the game does look quite impressive. So it's a tough thing to separate, but I feel like it's worth noting.
I'm thinking of Rise of Ronin.
Yeah, that one looked cool. Also, the sorry to add more announcements, but there was the other new IP from, gosh, what was it? The other like ninja style game. Am I tripping, or is that called Rise of
Are you talking
Ronin?
about?
The new IP, the like futuristic game.
Oh yeah, you're talking about like the last. It was called like the Last Sentinel or something like that.
Yep.
But who's making it? I'm blank. Sorry, I
It's
should
a
have
new
pulled this
studio,
up
isn't it?
It's a new
but-
studio.
Okay,
It's
okay.
a new studio.
Yeah,
Yeah,
never mind
from
then.
like somebody who was on the Red Dead project or from Rockstar. I
That's
believe.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
from
Gameplay designer or
Lightspeed
something
LA
like that.
is the studio.
That's right. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else y'all wanna cover? I have two other quick hits. Sega just randomly announced 5 remakes.
That was weird.
That was
Wild.
crazy. That was
Wild.
crazy. And to see like gameplay of like little snippets of all of them, I was like, "Yo, what is this? This is amazing."
Yeah.
I didn't even catch all of them in the moment. I was like, "Oh, Crazy Taxi," and then after the fact, I was like, "Oh, also Golden Axe, also Jet Set Radio."
Also Shinobi. Also Streets of Rage.
Streets
They're
of
doing
Rage is
something
a
over
weird
there.
one because didn't we get a Streets of Rage 4?
We did.
Like 3
Yeah.
years ago. That was great.
Mhm.
Like, so it's interesting. I love Jet Set Radio. I like it to come back in a big way, but we'll see.
And then the musical performances. I mean, this year we alluded to the Alan Wake performance. The orchestra did their medley as always. They also did a Final Fantasy VII. The second game, I don't remember the subtitle. Rebirth. Thank you. With the singer from The Greatest Showman, like actually doing the vocals for it, which was cool.
Oh, is that where she was from?
Yeah, she's not.
I like-
She didn't
I like that
act
movie.
in the movie, but she sang on the recording of it. I'll get the name,
okay.
but
Yeah.
highlights in musical performances that y'all really liked.
I mean, the Alan Wake performance was like on
Yeah.
another level
Easy.
for me. Yeah, like that was absolutely nuts. Like, I'm curious, Jacob, as someone who hasn't played the game at all, like, what were your takeaways from that? Are you more interested to play the game now? Like, what's the vibe with that? Because I was just like, I was on the verge of tears just of like how fun that was and how much production they brought, and the fact that they had like the Alan Wake physical actor as well as the voice actor singing on stage. Like, it was so meta and weird, and Sam Lake being up there dancing. Like, it was just so dope. It was so cool to see. So I'm glad they made that happen.
I didn't get a lot out of it, just
Sure.
because I haven't played the game, and
Yeah.
it was weird. I liked seeing Sam
Yeah.
Lake do his thing. Like,
Yep.
that man just needs to be protected. It doesn't make me want to play the game more or less. That was
Okay,
that
that's
performance was for the Alan Wake 2 fans.
Yeah. No, I think
Yeah.
that's fair. Out of context, it's like, what the fuck?
I
What the
watched
fuck
it
is
with
this?
2 people that also didn't play the game, and they were like, "Wait, is this in the game? Like, wait, what is happening?" I'm like, "I don't know. You got to play it to see. You got to play it to find out." I really liked it. I really loved it. Yeah, it was awesome. Probably. I mean, I also kind of oddly liked the Hellblade performance where they
That was
played
cool.
this song that nobody had ever heard of
Mhm.
before. And everybody was like,
And they had
are you
like
going
the
to show a
instruments
trailer?
on stage, and everybody was in
Yeah.
costume. Like, the production on
Yeah.
that, I thought was cool.
I love that Gregorian ass shit where they're
Mhm.
chanting and not saying words. Man, give it to me every time.
That gives me like PTSD because when I was in undergrad for my music ed degree, we had listening literature tests where it was like all Gregorian chant. So we're listening to like
good.
20 or 30 songs in Gregorian chant. So I'm just like, oh my God, I'm back. But it's cool music for sure. And it's like, it sets a tone that's very, very compelling. So
There's one thing you can always say about the Game Awards is that they produce and put together performances that you would not get anywhere else.
Yeah.
And I always appreciate, like, the year I went, which was 2021. Sting was there, performed the song from Arcane, and Imagine Dragons performed the song from Arcane with JID. And I love that. Last year the performance with Halsey was weird, but fine for Diablo 4. But you always get like cool performances, and I guess I tip my hat to the Game Awards Orchestra, which I mean you've had the privilege of seeing live, Luke.
Yeah, I hope they do another concert in a similar style, or at least every couple years, because it was really awesome. And I I wanted more of the
Mhm.
orchestra throughout the show, but I thought it was really awesome to see them play. So, and shout out to, I believe his name is Pedro, the flautist that was just laying it down with the bass flute, and I was like, this is so hype. This is the coolest.
Important question for you, Luke. For folks who listen to the Lukewarm Games podcast, you have a pizza bet with your partner Claire every year based on guessing all of the categories. My understanding is you won this year's pizza bet, right?
I did win by 3 points. Claire was leading throughout the evening. Yeah, but I did come out on top in the end. The pizza was very good. So thank you for everyone.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I ordered a pizza that night and I paid for it, and then afterwards Claire was just like, I can just pay you for the pizza. we got, we'll call it even. So it worked out. It was nice.
Any other thoughts about the Game Awards before we flip to the next section of the show?
It can be a fun time, and I still look forward to watching next year. So yeah, some good stuff, some room to grow.
Did anything surprise you guys in terms of awards?
Oh, I felt like it was nothing surprise. Like everything that won, I was like, yep, that makes sense. Either I predicted that or it makes sense. There wasn't anything that I was like, really? Oh, like nothing like split the vote as much this year as I kind of thought it would.
No,
I was excited to see Hi-Fi Rush win sound design, because I thought that was going to go elsewhere, but like games like that where it's like, cool, I'm glad folks like remembered that game. Or Chia winning games for Impact was a surprise for me. Like I really love that game, and I'm excited to see that it resonated with folks.
Yeah, I think for me the biggest surprise was Chia, not because it's not a good game.
Yeah,
I've played an hour of it. I know Luke, you played it. It maybe had the least clear impact of the other games. Like obviously they're telling the story of New Caledonia in that one. But
really? I felt like maybe it was just beating it, but I felt like it had the most. In a sense.
And see, I thought of Venba, I thought of Terra Nil. Like I thought if we were doing it based on purely the sale of pro-social issues, like Terra Nil might actually win it just because of the environmentalism message that they had. That's the only reason I was surprised about Chia.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't want to like spoil the whole story for folks, but like it's still worth playing. But there's just a lot of representation, whether it's culturally speaking, whether it's for the LGBT community. It's just like, and the way it's represented doesn't feel like overly in your face. It's just like very authentic, I would say. So
yeah,
it definitely deserves it, and I was excited for that team.
And then for me, the other surprise was around Content Creator of the Year. I thought for sure just it was scale of creator that would win it. So someone like Cypher PK to me was a shoo-in. But to have, Iron Mouse, who's a VTuber, be the winner, I was genuinely shocked about it. But I mean, I don't know. It's a thing.
For sure.
Otherwise, like
a lot of.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Joseph.
I was gonna say I know a lot of people like Iron Mouse because she has like this physical condition where she literally can't leave the house, and then she's like amassed this whole audience and following and whatnot. And I think she won. She won some stuff at the recent Streamer Awards as well. So I'm not in that community. I don't really follow streamers like that, but I do know that she has a lot of hype around her.
Yeah, she won Best VTuber at the Streamer Awards, which is QT Cinderella's award ceremony that happens every year.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think I just have one more to shout out real quick. I thought it was cool to see Cyberpunk take Best Ongoing Game. I've been playing it a bit over the past couple weeks. I'm like 10 hours in.
Oh snap!
It's a good game. It's a good game. It's come a long way since I played it back in 2020, and I think, to the CD Projekt Red's credit, like they stuck with it, and I think they evolved that game in a big way, and I think it has a very passionate community, and it's nice to be able to look back at that game and like give it a thumbs up and say, like, if you're interested, it's definitely worth playing. And it was cool to see them get their flowers, because they definitely didn't when it launched. So
Yeah, I think that is a prime example of like the game's initial failure being like a result of management and not a result of the capability of the developers, because to their credit, like a lot of the things that they promised initially are now finally in the game.
right.
Maybe not to the grandiose detail that they were hoping originally, but it's there, which means that, hey, like if the devs actually had an extra year or whatever to, implement this game without being pushed by management to deliver on these dates or whatever, which I understand you got to do when
Sure.
this is like the sole thing that's funding your company. I think that, it would have been a way different story.
Totally.
But yeah, one other category that I think the only category that actually shocked me that was one of the bigger categories was best performance with the voice actor for Asterion from Baldur's Gate. I do not have Asterion in my party, so I talk to him every now and again. He is a cool, interesting like character, but to have him win performance of the year in a game where you don't even have to have him in your party is like insanity to me, which is like, not saying it's insanity in a bad way, but I'm like, dang, like he must have really charmed some folks, because we got all these people who you either play as or who are main side characters or whatever, and it's like, actually this guy who maybe 25% of people brought along, yeah, he's doing the damn thing this year.
And the fit,
but it's wild because like, oh yeah, no,
it was so good. Yeah,
outfit was great, but like it is wild that like that game is so dense in a sense that like that 25% of players or however many had him in their party, there's hundreds of hours of dialogue there.
Oh yeah,
and side quests and like companion quests and stuff that I'm sure is like incredibly compelling. And I think it just speaks to like the Baldur's Gate fandom is real, and they are loud and proud of that fantastic game, and it's really cool to see. But yeah, I would have, my guess was Ben Starr, just because I felt like, even though like I don't know if it was my favorite performance of the year, but I think he had like, I feel like he's the industry darling right now. Just like, he's a lovely person and he's really charming, and he's on all the content, and the marketing push around him I think has been very good. So that was kind of my prediction, but I was surprised, but well deserved and excited to see.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that actually gave me some hope. Not hope, but like, it was nice to see that it's like, okay, the guy that it seems like should win because he's best friends with everybody, and he had a good performance. I'm not taking away from that.
Yeah,
I'm like, it's pretty cool to see.
I agree.
I don't know this voice actor from Baldur's Gate. I know his character, but I don't know him or anything like that. So to see him get his flowers from basically just doing this killer performance, very cool. And one random side thing before we go to the next section, seeing Saga Anderson's voice actor in the crowd, so fucking trippy, dude. I'm like, you are the character. You look exactly like this character, and crazy. This is weird.
And Alan Wake too, like his Ilka, I believe his name, was on the giant bomb couch, and I was like, this is weird.
Yeah.
This is very cool, but this is meta.
I think with Ben Starr, I sort of agree with you that he took the industry by storm this year, at least folks in our circles. But Ben will have his opportunities, because the weekend of Game Awards, it was announced that he is going to voice a character in the new Warframe DLC, or the new Warframe story. So at least Ben will continue to be in games from the look of it.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Someday he will get his, I'm sure.
He won did he win the golden joystick or no? Okay, so he's good. Yeah. He's good. He got his award.
He got the hardware. He got the hardware.
Nice.
Well, that is our coverage of the Game Awards 2023. Y'all, we're going to play a little short game to end our year of podcast, our first year of the podcast. And this one is to get us in the mindset of Game of the Year. Both Luke and Joseph don't know what I have planned here, but as our resident quizmaster, let me walk you through what we're going to do with the rest of the show. So to get ourselves in the mindset of Game of the Year, we are going to build a list of 10 games each. Your goal with this list is to select the games with the highest OpenCritic rating from 2023. The only catch here is that you may not select a game that was nominated for Game of the Year. So in this case, you may not select Spider-Man 2, Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Super Mario Wonder, Resident Evil 4, or The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Which, again, this is more to just get us in the mindset of like, what games are sort of under the radar that folks should check out, that have been rated highly, that we may have forgotten about. And we'll do it sort of like snake draft style. So the first person will get the first pick, and then the next person will get 2 picks, and the next person will get 2 picks, just to make it really fair on everybody. So with that, I'm going to swap my little cam here to pull up the list that I prepared here. Here it is. And so what I would love for you boys, is to decide some way between you on how to decide who goes first.
Coin flip.
Coin flip works if you have a coin handy, or who is born earlier in their birth month or something. I don't know.
All right. Let's do who was born earlier.
What day is your birthday?
20th.
I'm the 29th, so
okay,
you go
Joseph,
first.
you have the first
All right.
pick here. And as we go, I will put in the OpenCritic scores so we sort of know where we're at.
Okay.
Okay.
You cannot pick one of the Game of the Year nominees.
Right.
Wait,
you
cannot
cannot
pick one of the Game of the Year nominees.
I'm assuming
I missed that. Shoot. Okay.
I'm assuming Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty does not count.
If there's an OpenCritic, I will give it to you. If there's a separate OpenCritic, there is. So if you want to pick it, I will give it to you.
All right. Yeah, give me that.
So Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty is an 89 on Metacritic. So your first is 89. Luke, you get the next 2 picks here.
Oof. Okay. I gotta rack my brain here.
Reminder, and I will actually move it up so you can see it. You cannot pick. You cannot pick one of these.
Helpful. Just to.
Sorry. You can.
One of those games. Okay. Gosh. I'm gonna go with Armored Core 6. Fires of Rubicon.
Armored Core 6.
I believe it reviewed pretty well.
Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon is an 85 on OpenCritic. All right, Luke, what's your next pick here?
Let's go with Final Fantasy 16.
Final Fantasy 16 is, if I knew how to use the internet faster, Final Fantasy 16 is an 88 on OpenCritic. That's about as high as you can get. Like a 90 plus on OpenCritic is very tough to get.
Right.
So Joseph, your next 2 picks are up.
Fantasy 16.
Happy with that.
Give me Cocoon.
Okay. So
it's a good
Cocoon
call. Good call.
Is an 87 on OpenCritic.
What? Should be higher. Let's see.
Okay, now my brain's like flowing. I have a couple more that I think
what
are in the conversation.
Would be in that high 80s range. Give me. Hold on. All right, let me just do a quick reverse on all the games that just recently came out. I know I'm missing something. Okay. Just give me Sea of Stars.
All right. Sea of Stars on OpenCritic is an 89.
This is. Let's go.
Nice.
I thought it was like an 83 or something.
All right.
I'll take
Luke,
that.
Your next 2 picks are up.
Pikmin 4?
Okay.
I'll throw that one out. I feel like the folks that played it really dug it, so that feels like a safe bet. That's an 88
on OpenCritic.
Yes.
I should have said
Right.
Pikmin 4. Okay.
And then can I do? Thinking Forza Motorsport.
Forza Motorsport is and I have to make sure to get the right one.
Feels like a safe.
That's an
safe
84 on OpenCritic.
Okay. I did like it less than previous Forza games, so that
we're doing
tracks,
well.
I
We're
guess.
really close. Joseph, your next two picks are up.
okay.
Give me Hi-Fi Rush.
Oh, nice.
That's good.
Hi-Fi Rush is an 89 on OpenCritic.
Let's
Nice.
freaking go.
Nice.
And now give me Dead Space Remake.
Okay.
Also good. Also a good poll.
Dead Space Remake is an 89 on OpenCritic.
Wait, do games actually not break 90? What's going on
It's
here?
very
on OpenCritic,
rare.
it's very rare.
Those GOTY nominees definitely did a couple of
Dang,
them for
I
sure.
did not realize that. Okay.
OpenCritic in my mind is typically like 2
okay.
points lower than Metacritic.
I'm gonna jump to the indie side and go with now I'm questioning it. I'm gonna say Venba. I'm gonna throw out Venba.
Okay, Venba on OpenCritic is an 81.
Yeah, okay. Fair.
So I'm going to give you guys a second to think of more games. We're at the halfway mark. We have 5 games each. So let me recap what each person has. Give you a second to think. Joseph's list at the moment is Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty, Cocoon, Sea of Stars, Hi-Fi Rush, Dead Space 2023. And Luke, your list is Armored Core 6, Final Fantasy 16, Pikmin 4, Forza Motorsport, and Venba. We have 5 games to go. And just a reminder for folks screaming at their podcast provider that, hi, why aren't you selecting, the bangers of the year? The rule is no game of the year nominees. Just give folks more games that they should check out before game of the year.
Also, for the record, these are all bangers. Like these are all good games that we've listed. Just throwing
I'm
it out
writing
there.
out my list right now. I'm trying to think
so
of
Luke,
what I
you are
missed.
up for your 6th pick.
Am I allowed to reference my personal top 10 list, or is that a no? This all needs to be off the dome. It's okay if it does.
I'm fine. Joseph, thoughts? I'm okay with it. If he looks at his list.
You're the rule master.
Hold on, let me say.
Jacob
Joseph,
sets.
do you have a list that you're building for game of the year?
Then
I'm going to say no, Luke. Sorry.
I mean, I'm just going off my.
That's fair. I respect the rules of the game.
If he had a list, I would say yes. But since he does not, I will say no.
Yeah, that's fair. That's okay. Okay. I feel like I'm missing some obvious. We're missing some obvious AAA stuff that I'm not thinking of. That reviewed fairly well. Well, I have. I don't think that reviewed well though. I have one in mind that I'm not going to say because
then Joseph will steal it.
Don't think the OpenCritic. Well, but I don't think the OpenCritic. I think the game. I don't know if it's spoilers to say the game's probably in a good place now, but I think when it reviewed, it was not. If that gives listeners any hints to what I was thinking.
Oh, I see.
All right, Luke. Your 6th pick. You're up.
I'm up. Okay. Let's go with. I'm gonna throw out Dredge. Keep the indie train going.
On Metacritic, or on OpenCritic rather, is an 82.
I think that's a little low, but that's admirable for Dredge.
Man, you're next 2.
Okay. Dave the Diver. That's what I'll go with.
What do you think's higher between Dredge and Dave the Diver?
Probably 83. Dave has to be higher by like a point or two.
Dave is a 90 on OpenCritic.
What? Oh my God.
Indie game.
All right. And my next one is kind of a gamble because I don't. So what happens if the game does not have enough
That's a great
reviews to
question.
be
If
rated?
it does not have an OpenCritic rating, I will check Metacritic. If there's no Metacritic rating, then I will ask you to select another game.
Okay, that's fine. So in that case, we're going with Pizza Tower, baby. That's a 90 right there.
Pizza Tower on OpenCritic does not have rating. How did you just know it wasn't going to have ratings?
Shoot. Because I feel like I remember looking this up in the past, and it didn't actually have as many reviews as I
Pizza Tower
thought.
has a Metacritic rating, so I will give you the Metacritic rating of 89.
Okay.
All right, Luke, you've got 2 up.
I'm going to go with the fighting game category. I'm going to go with Street Fighter 6, and I'm going to go with Mortal Kombat 1, which that was the big triple A's. I was like, wait, we're missing.
So we have
major.
a new
So I'm gonna go
highest
with both
point
of
getter
those.
on the board. Street Fighter 6 is a
Let's
go.
92 on OpenCritic.
Let's go.
Wow.
Let's go. That might have recovered some of my 84s and 82s.
And then Mortal Kombat 1 is an 84.
Okay.
Really? That's kind of low.
I'll take it.
Dang, that was a good pull, Luke. That was a good pull.
Hoopman, you've got 2 picks up. We are at game 8 for you.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. What else would have had higher reviews?
Yeah, we're
What
getting
else
down to it now. I'm like,
give me Chance of Sonar.
Okay. Chance of Sonar.
Andy Darling. Let's
Chance
go.
of Sonar has an 82 on OpenCritic.
Ooh, that's a little lower than I wanted. Okay, that's all right. That's like my first low pick.
And then your 9th game.
Okay, last one. Ooh, I have one, but I don't know. I have 2.
For the audio listener, there's 2 games left for each player.
This is OpenCritic, right?
Follow the heart of the cards, bro.
Give me Starfield.
I was thinking about that.
Give me an 82 on that, 83.
I think it reviewed better than we think.
But I feel like it kept dropping.
Yeah, but that's user reviews, though.
Let's go.
Yeah,
85.
that's what I
It's an
thought.
85
Yeah.
on OpenCritic. So, Luke, your final 2 games are up. Do the first one, and then I'm going to do a little calculation here, a little math for the suspense.
I'm going to keep in the indie world, and I think this reviewed quite well. Slay the Princess.
Yeah, that one I
think that's a 90 plus.
Did it have
that's
enough
90
reviews?
on OpenCritic.
I think it did.
Let's go, baby. I had it on my list.
Let's
it on my
baby.
list.
All right, so
their social presence was very good about tweeting out the screenshot with the review scores, and I was like, I think it did quite well. That's awesome. Good for that game.
So, really quickly, math-wise, Luke, you have 775 points going into our final game selection. And Hoopman, let me do the math really quick. A lot of 89s on the board for you. 89 seem to be your number.
Yeah, I think Hooper's in the lead.
You are 789. So, Luke, you need a banger here.
Oh, that's not that much higher. Yeah, I need like a 90. Oof. Shoot.
You're gonna have to find one of those niche titles like Grand Blue Cross Tag Fusion.
The only game I can think of right now is a AAA that I don't think reviewed favorably, so I'm not going to go with that.
Exactly which one you're thinking too.
Let's go. Keep in the indie world still. Shoot. Sorry, give me
this is the big pick.
30 seconds.
Just for our audio listeners, I will recap while Luke decides on his last game. Joseph's List, Cyberpunk 2077, Phantom Liberty, Cocoon, Sea of Stars, Hi-Fi Rush, Dead Space, Dave the Diver, Pizza Tower, Chance of Sonar, Starfield. He's up 14 points total, so essentially almost a full OpenCritic point higher than Luke's bench of Armored Core 6, Final Fantasy 16, Pikmin 4, Forza Motorsport, Vemba, Dredge, Street Fighter 6, Mortal Kombat 1, Slay the Princess. Luke, give me a banger.
I'm going to go in the Nintendo world. I'm going to go with Super Mario RPG.
Ooh.
All right. Drum roll for Super Mario RPG. This one, my friends, is an 84. So, Luke, that puts you at a final total of 859. which means your average game ranking
do I
is
need?
85.9.
Well, Joseph, just pick the AAA game that I didn't pick, and then we're good. Then I win.
85. So what's the math there? I need a 70 or higher.
Oh, that's pretty damn. Okay. Well,
All right,
it was a well fought.
I'm picking Viewfinder. We're closing this one
Wow.
out.
Okay.
Okay.
This is what, like an 83?
Viewfinder is an 83.
Nice. Well done.
I mean, I got the eye. Got the eye.
You just have a good bent.
Can you humor me? I was also thinking about picking Bomb Rush Cyberpunk. What is that?
That's got to be
That
in the
could either be a
70
or like
because I think that didn't review as well as.
Oh,
Bomb
did it
Rush
not?
Cyberpunk was a
hoping.
78.
Okay. That's
Okay.
fine. What's Jedi Survivor? Just out of curiosity, that game kept popping up on my head, but I was like, "There's no way it reviewed well at launch."
Jedi Survivor was an
That well,
84.
relatively speaking. Okay, actually, that's funny
This is
because it's
pretty
the
good.
same as Super Mario RPG that I ended
So I
up
guess
going with.
final
Well, that was
question
fun.
for you. We have
That
our
was
list
fun.
here, and again, quick recap for the audio listener. Cyberpunk 2077, Phantom Liberty, Cocoon, Sea of Stars, Hi-Fi Rush, Dead Space, Dave the Diver, Pizza Tower, Chances in our Starfield Viewfinder for Joseph, and for Luke, Armored Core 6, Final Fantasy 16, Pikmin 4, Forza Motorsport, Bemba, Dredge, Street Fighter 6, Mortal Kombat 1, Slay the Princess, Super Mario RPG. Between the two benches here, I know that OpenCritic says there is a full point between them, but who's got the better bench here? And is this the best year of video games of all time?
I was gonna say these are cool lists. Like I like
These
these
are very
groups of
cool
games.
lists. This is fun. This was
Who's got
very
the better
fun.
bench? I know OpenCritic said Joseph, but
I mean,
Joseph's like, it's me.
I mean, look at that list. Look at that. Look at
It's
the
a-
variety on there.
I do like the variety because I think Joseph has some solid AAA bangers, but he also has a couple indie gems. But I have Pikmin 4, so I mean,
It's true. He does have.
I have a lot of like Nintendo happening, and if you're a Street Fighter or a fighting
You're a
game
fighting
person,
game
like
fan.
that's the
move.
some indie representation. I'm just excited that Slay the Princess scored that well. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's
Love.
awesome.
All right. Well, that was our first mini quiz show, quiz game in Crossplay Conversations history. So thanks for humoring me, y'all. We're going to close out the show. So before we leave, we set our status to away. You can do three things for us. You can do one, you can follow us on Twitter at Crossplay Convos. You can two, send this podcast to a friend because that's how people hear about podcasts. And number three, and we really mean this as a new podcast, this is very important. If you've not given us a review on your podcasting platform of choice, please, 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 as a Christmas gift, as a Hanukkah gift, please, please give us a review because if you like this show and you've listened to 12 episodes, like, come on. 5 stars, or else take it away and take it to another podcast. Maybe the Player podcast. Anyway, Luke, what I'd love for you to do before we close out is we're
over.
planning our Game of the Year stuff. You're leading that charge. Do you want to give folks a small tease on what we should expect in January for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are taking the holiday break to play as many more games as we possibly can. And then we are joining forces with my lovely fiance and co-host Claire of the LukeWarmGames Podcast. She's going to join, and our group of 4 is going to return. I believe it's the second week of January with our big Game of the Year content. It'll probably be split up into 2 parts because we have a lot to say, lots of games to cover, but part of it will be our best of awards categories with some fun shenanigans and some predictable things like best narrative, best performance, best music, but we'll also do some wacky ones like best gameplay loop or best creature companion or different fun things like that. So we'll have that where those are more like our spirited debates. And then the second half will be kind of more of a celebration of our personal top 10 list. So we'll run through the 10 games that each of us wanted to highlight within the year. So y'all have some solid recommendations and an even bigger backlog in 2024. And we're really excited to celebrate just a ton of wonderful releases.
The thing that I love about the show, and I mean, this is the 3rd time that we've done this sort of Game of the Year sort of conversation. You can check out the first 2 years. We'll maybe link them in the show notes for this one if you want to check those out.
Yeah, over on LukeWarm Games. They were like the big inspiration for this pod, I would say. Is like those were the first couple times we really collaborated.
And we may be
in a
the
big way.
latest game of the year sort of conversation in the pantheon of podcasts, but I think, you know, it really gives us a chance to take everything in during the break and then come to you with the definitive list of best video games. Sure. Let's go with that. All right, y'all. Well, that was the show. So with that, I will end by saying the only thing shorter than this podcast is the Call of Duty campaign? ? Bye.